My name is Springall, and this is The Noisy Life, a music podcast about the noise we grew up on and the noise we're making now. I am a music fan. I'm a music player. Musician? Well, I don't want to sell myself at the same level as people I know who have literally spent thousands of hours, dollars, and education becoming full-on musicians. I'm musical, let's just say that. But music has always been on the top of my mind since I don't know when. Ever since I was a little kid being told, "Turn down that noise." I've been, in fact, cranking that noise even louder at every chance. And every time I do, music does something special to catch my ear with its simplicity, complexity, trickery, bluntness, or even just pure joy. It's also very fun to play music, to the point where when I see other people playing it, it excites me so much that I just want to jump up on stage and start playing with them. But that would just be weird. I know, respect the artist's space and whatnot, but I get a sudden urge to connect with those people, you know? These complete strangers, just because they're making the noise that my ears like. That's pretty cool. It's a pretty strong force. And it might even be how some of our favorite bands got started in the first place. Anyway, this show is about that strong force and our need for music in our lives, and about the people that bring it to us on a regular basis. I personally am situated here in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Canada, Twin City to Halifax, the province's capital. Being a rather isolated city from the rest of the province and the country, music is a pretty strong force here. Pretty much any night of the week you'll find music bringing people together somewhere in this town. Whether it's an open mic, a bar gig, an all-ages show, a house party, or that rare headlining act that comes into town and plays at the concert hall every couple of months. Either way, the need for music in people's individual lives is definitely being fulfilled here. You just need to know where to look for it. So really, the whole point of this show, I think, is to find as many people in the local Halifax music scene as we possibly can, bring them in the studio, get to know a little about them, how they got hooked on music in the first place, and yeah, we really want to dig deep. I want to reveal those first sounds, the first chords that really pulled the trigger and shot them into the musical realm, as it were. We'll chat with our guests, we'll nerd out on music, and maybe they'll even play me a song. Now next week, I'm going to tease it already. We're going to have someone super interesting and accomplished who's doing something great in the Halifax music scene, and they're going to blow the digital roof off of this small container of sound that we call a podcast. But this week's guest is none other than... Can I get a drum roll, please? Me! Yeah, that's right, me, Ty, your host. Figure since I'm the one starting this damn show, I should have to explain myself a little bit about how I stumbled upon music. In fact, I was just trying to remember today, what was the first song I ever learned to play on guitar? Let me just pick through the old pile of mind grapes there and remember what it was. Well, it all began around 8 or 9 years old, I guess. The radio was always a pretty big thing in our house. It was always on, as far as I can remember. I just remember my dad would turn it on in the morning and just kind of have it blaring all day, blasting classic rock hits out all day long. I mean, I guess my dad was a music enthusiast of sorts. He's musical like me, but never really got as deep into it. But he does play the flute, fun fact, which to this day I have no idea how to play a flute, so kudos to him. And even as a kid, I remember him trying to school me on facts about like Black Sabbath or Jethro Tull, and just kind of exposing me to rock and roll without even really meaning to. And so my dad had this big box of cassette tapes down in the basement that I found one day. I started digging through them, looking at all the covers of different rock stars and people I had no idea who they were. David Bowie, Elton John, like who are these weird people? Anyway, one of the first ones I took out and put on was Joan Jett and the Blackhearts' I Love Rock and Roll. I remember looking at the cover art for the first time and just seeing this figure looking badass wearing a hot pink blazer and assuming it was Joan Jett. Although being 8 years old, like I didn't know if this was a glammed up dude or like a fierce looking woman with those piercing eyes and like jagged black sharp hair. They were cool looking, whoever they were, but I didn't know what to make of it. Once I pressed play, it did not matter. Once that monster riff of dirty guitars blasted out of my speakers, I was hooked. From that point on, I literally loved rock and roll. I couldn't get enough of it. Fast forward to 8th grade, I was heavily into Green Day at the time. Still am, don't worry. They were my first real favorite band, I guess you would say. And I had just gotten my first drum kit, slowly learning how to play it without lessons or anyone to guide me or anything. So I was trying to work my way through that. I had a pretty good knack for keeping rhythm, and pretty much thought I was going to be the next Trey Cool. And then, out of the blue, that same year, my parents got me my first guitar. Now, hitting objects with sticks, I mean, that's one thing, but guitar was something I would actually have to learn. It seemed pretty daunting, not gonna lie. And after months of practice, I could only seem to play like single note melodies and maybe muster out like a full chord or two until it all fell apart. But then one day, after discovering the written form of music known as guitar tabs, I found the tabs for a classic Green Day song from their very first album called Going to Paso Aqua.
Here we go again, infatuation touches me just when I thought that it would end. Oh, but then again.
Now, maybe it was the simplicity of the chord structure or the carefree way that Billy Joe Armstrong just strummed those chords, but it all clicked with this song. First of all, there are really only 3 chords in the song, A, E, and D. I mean 4 if you count the F sharp that they throw in later in the chorus. But if you play them all in open style chords, they're really close together on the fretboard, all around the 2nd fret area. Minimal hand movement. I mean, that makes it a pretty perfect song for a 12-year-old kid to learn on guitar. And yet it still remains one of my favorite songs of all time. This song is quintessential Green Day, whatever that word means. It means it's very much like Green Day. Fast rhythms, distorted punk rock guitar, mixed with infectious vocals and harmonies of like 60s pop rock. And there's also this really cool thing they do in this song too, which you hear in the 2nd verse. So when the chorus ends, you just hear this chugging of an A chord and you think the next verse is going to begin like normal. But Billy Joe waits a moment to come in with the first line before slamming into that next chord change. And I've always loved this part of the song because it's kind of spontaneous, but it kind of has this calming effect over you, but also kind of suspenseful at the same time. I don't know, it's kind of like he's stopping to reflect for a moment in the middle of this explosion of emotions that is this song. And it's just always been one of my favorite moments. And it's those little moments in songs and records and bands that I love that I tend to latch onto in music. It's what makes rock and roll so infinitely appealing, is all those little things. I mean, that's what rock and roll is all about. It's spontaneous, it's unexpected, and there are no rules. You can do whatever you want in a rock and roll song. So I got into my home studio the other day, messed around a bit. I added a few things. I might have got a tiny bit carried away. I mean, it was just supposed to be a simple pick it up and play, but then I, listened back, started adding little things here and there just to see what it'd sound like, and I mean, come on. Who can resist those harmonies? So, here it is. Nonetheless, the first song I ever learned how to play on guitar. It's my little version of Going to Passalaqua by Green Day. Here we go again, infatuation touches me just when I thought that it would end. Oh, but then again, it seems much more than that, but I'm not sure exactly what you're thinking. And I toss and turn all night thinking of your ways of affection, but to find that it's not different at all. And I throw away my past mistakes, contemplate my future. That's what I say. What the heck? Will it last forever? You and I together, hand in hand, we'll run away, far away. I'm in for nasty weather, but I'll take whatever you can give that comes my way, yeah, far away. Here we go again, infatuation touches me just when I thought that it would end. Oh, but then again, it seems much more than that, but I'm not sure exactly what you're thinking. And I toss and turn all night thinking of your ways of affection, but to find that it's not different at all. And I throw away my past mistakes, contemplate my future. That's when I say, what the heck? Will it last forever? You and I together, hand in hand, we'll run away, far away. I'm in for nasty weather, but I'll take whatever you can give that comes my way, yeah, far away. Well, I toss and turn all night thinking of your ways of affection, but to find that it's not different at all. And I throw away my past mistakes and contemplate my future. That's when I say, what the heck? Will it last forever? You and I together, hand in hand, we'll run away, far away. I'm in for nasty weather, but I'll take whatever you can give that comes my way, yeah, far away, far away. Well, we did it. One musical journey down, many more to come. Our intro music and outro music that you're hearing right now are both by a band called The Loveliest Skies. They're a local Halifax band, and if you want to check out more music by them, just go to their Bandcamp page at theloveliestskies.bandcamp.com. I'm Ty Springall. We'll see you next time. Make some noise.